Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for watching Lady Code. I am here today with the fabulous Bryiana Dyrdek. Thank you so much for being here. Really, really appreciate it.
Of course, I'm so excited for this.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited to have you. For those of you that don't know, I actually met Bryiana years ago at the America's Perfect Teen pageant, and I believe that might have been in 2010. So maybe was it then? It was a while back. It was a while back, and I remember at that time she was also an Asian girl competing in this modeling pageant fashion show. So I had to root for her, and she was doing so well. She was, I believe, you were first runner up that year. And her compete every year, and as did I, until she won World's Perfect Miss. And ever since then, I've followed your journey. I've admired so much of what you've done, even just through that scope of pageantry, how you worked so hard to get the title and you never gave up. You never were spiteful, no matter the outcome. You knew it was all planned, and you made the most out of it. So personally, I just want to let you know that was something that I've always admired about you. But even beyond that, she's also the CEO of Iconic Beauty and Iconic Wine Beauties, and does so much. So if without further ado, Bryiana, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, and what do you think really inspires you, and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a former beauty queen. I like to think of myself as an undiscovered Disney princess. I'm the president of Iconic Wine Beauties and Iconic Beauty. So I'm really into and inspiring and empowering women. Like I want to help them to not only like want more, but to teach them how to believe that you're deserving of having more. And I really think that that's something that most people struggle with, like you can want more for your life. You can want, bigger, better, stronger, you could want it all. But if you don't believe that you're capable of having those things, or if you don't believe that you're deserving of those things, then, you have some inner work that you have to do. And so both of my companies now are going under some like makeovers. And so I'm really excited for what we're getting ready to launch pretty soon, because I really believe that this is going to be the most powerful and impactful work that I have ever been able to put together. So I'm really excited to get to change people's lives with this.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if you could start off with sharing a little bit about Iconic Wine Beauties. I know, or actually first with Iconic Beauties, and then go forward with Iconic Wine Beauties and explaining a little bit more for those who might be interested.
Yeah, so Iconic Wine Beauties actually stemmed off from Iconic Beauty. Iconic Beauty is a women's empowerment brand. It actually stemmed from my former pageant background. When I created Iconic Beauty, I was like, oh, I want my own beauty pageant, because I didn't like the idea of only one girl wins, and I didn't like the idea of there are judges who are picking a girl based off of usually their exterior, and there's so much more to people on the inside. And I just saw so many girls not winning when I thought that they deserved to. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to have this beauty pageant where it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what you look like. You don't have to have any experience. We're just going to go live our dreams together, kind of thing. And then I quickly realized, like, okay, no, I don't want my own beauty pageant. Like, I was more into modeling at that time. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to have my own modeling competition. But then same thing there, where I was going to have 20 winners. But then I quickly realized, like, okay, you know what? Modeling's not really my thing either, because I was modeling full time at that time, but I didn't necessarily like being on set. I didn't like there were just a lot of things about modeling that I couldn't get into. But then during my during the end of my pageant career and all throughout my modeling career, I was introduced to network marketing. And then I learned more about personal development and setting goals and creating a plan to help you transform those dreams and goals into a reality. And I was like, this is powerful. And especially because at the time it was so male dominated. And I was like, why aren't there more women who are like, teaching this stuff? Why aren't there more women who are putting themselves out there and saying like, hey, look, I get where you're coming from. Like, I have those problems too. And I wanted more, and this is how I did it. And so I still wanted, Iconic Beauty is basically where I meshed up everything that I loved about pageants and modeling and network marketing and personal development, and took out all of the things that I didn't like about those things. And then Iconic Beauty was born. So I looked at what I wished that there was in the world, and then I went out and created it because I wanted to be part of something. Like what I loved about pageants is the sisterhood. And so I had such great relationships with people in pageantry. And I was like, this is like, I love this, but I only had that inside of pageants. And then when I had to retire, I was like, oh, well, where am I going to get to do the cute girly things? And where do I get to go volunteer my time? And, where do I get to like hang out with people who, like helping people?
Yes.
So then I just I went out and created it because I couldn't find what I was looking for.
And, now that you put it that way, I think you're right. I see, because also being in like modeling, I see how modeling doesn't have that sisterhood that pageantry has, but modeling has that glamorous factor, and you were still incorporating that. And I will say, I personally took part in Iconic Beauty, and it was a really, really great experience. Actually, through that, I have my own vision board that I set, and I try to do it quarterly. And because of that, I think through you, I was also really inspired to get into audiobooks that I listen to when I get ready. And now one of my favorites is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So when you brought up network marketing, it really brought me in and made me realize, now what are my financial goals? What are my pageant goals? What are my modeling goals? So for anyone interested, I highly recommend it. I took part in it. Bryiana is amazing. I can't say enough about her. But before I get on a tangent about that, how did that lead to Iconic Wine Beauties? And can you tell me more about that?
Yeah. So my event, Iconic Beauty had an event called Look Good, Feel Good, Do Good. So the look good part was the girls got makeovers. We did photo shoots. We got to walk in a fashion show. The feel good part was all personal development. And so we did a seminar where I talked about setting goals and how to achieve them. And then we made vision boards. And then the do good part is we teamed up with the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and we granted the wish of a 14-year-old girl. Well, she was 14 at the time, and she had sickle cell anemia, and her wish was to become a model. So we got her hair and makeup done. She did an amazing photo shoot. She got to close out our fashion show. And so I'm really big on, when you look good, you feel good. And when you feel good, you do good. And so that's kind of just my driving force behind everything that I do. Not necessarily that you have to, constantly be all dolled up and, look your best at all times. But really, I wanted to create an opportunity for women to get to come and live their dreams. That is what the entire purpose of Iconic Beauty was for everyone to get to experience a weekend of living your dreams, because I wanted you to be so obsessed with the experience of getting to live your dreams that you don't just get to live it once. You get to go back home to wherever you were before you got there and make it your mission to want this forever. I want to feel as amazing as I did this whole weekend for the rest of my life. So what do I have to do to get there? I wanted it to be that little spark, and then you go home and, ignite your own fire. So Iconic Wine Beauties kind of stemmed from that, where leading up to my event last year, I was already having wine and game nights, wine and bonfire nights, like wine and pool days. Like I just loved having girls come together and drink wine and all of that. So then when I got back into network marketing and found this wine club, I was like, this is my thing. Like I love network marketing. I love what it taught me. I love that wine went MLM. Like, are you kidding me? Does it even get any better than that? I think not. And since I was already doing these really girly things, I was like, iconic wine beauties could be really powerful. Like, what is better than drinking wine with positive, like-minded women and chasing after your biggest, wildest dreams together? Like, I literally could not think of one thing better than that. So that's when Iconic Wine Beauties was born. I got to, again, take everything that I loved and everything that I didn't love about Iconic Beauty. And then now Iconic Beauty is going through its own makeover, and Iconic Wine Beauties is just kind of thriving. And we're just this amazing sisterhood of women like drinking wine and sharing goals and encouraging each other to go after their biggest, wildest dreams. Like it's really, really powerful.
That's incredible. And so with the event, so is Iconic Wine Beauties like an event similar to Iconic Beauties, or how does that structure work?
So Iconic Wine Beauties, we are a Girl Gang wine club. So the way that it works is you become one of our VIP members. You have wine shipped to your front door every month.
Fun.
Then,
okay.
Yeah. And so every month, your membership also includes an invitation to our monthly member appreciation celebrations. So we've done things from, we had our launch party, we do rooftop movie nights, we've done a 90s karaoke night. This event for October was a self-love event, which was incredible. And then we went to New Orleans together. We've gone to Vegas together. It's just that I don't know, like we're just doing things that we always loved, but never had like the right outlet to be able to do so.
Absolutely. And especially too, I think, as people are going, for me at least, going into the adult world, it's so hard to make connections with people, and especially people that are girls that are also inspired, empowered, and driven and want to do things. So to be able to host that and incorporate, bringing wine every month and then celebrating, that's incredible. That's so cool. Because I would see it, but I wasn't exactly familiar with it. So now that you put it that way, thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Nice. And then if you can share a little bit more, I know you said with your, with Iconic Beauties, with the Do Good, how you were working with Make-A-Wish and how you granted a wish for one of the kids. But could you actually share a little bit about your story with Make-A-Wish? I think it's really inspiring, and I think people should definitely know and also feel inspired.
Yeah, so I was actually diagnosed with severe aplastic anemia when I was 10. So back in 2001, I was diagnosed, and my doctors told me that I probably only had a few days to live, and without a bone marrow transplant, there was no way I would live. Went through a couple of different treatments of chemo, a lot of different medications, countless blood and platelet transfusions. Like we were doing the most, and it just wasn't working. And then I had my wish granted through the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and I got to go to Hawaii and some of the dolphins, and that really gave me the hope and strength that I needed in order to keep fighting my battle and win. And I did. I ended up winning. I never got the bone marrow transplant. I really just believe that by having my wish granted and getting to see and experience what it was like to be a normal kid again, like no weird treatments. Like I got to argue with my brother and sister, and like we were all punished equally, like, or not punished, like I guess like disciplined, instead of like your sister's sick, like don't do that, I wasn't a sick kid anymore, like I got to be a normal kid, and I fell so in love with that experience, and I wanted to be able to do that for other people. So I've worked with the Make-A-Wish Foundation for years now, and I love it. Like there is nothing better than being able to give someone the gift of that inner fight, when your doctors are telling you one thing, when the people around you are telling you another, but you just feel something different in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I live for those things. And so to be able to not only get to, donate and put on fundraisers and grant wishes, but I personally know how powerful it is because I experienced it. So there's nothing that can replace the feeling of like, I was there and I made it kind of thing, like you can do it too. And so I think, it's really special.
Gives me shivers just thinking about it, really. And I really do think from your experience and what it is, it really shaped what iconic beauty and what iconic wine beauties and what I continue to see you do today with empowering people and impacting people, because I really see you spreading that hope and that joy that I assume that you were able to receive at Make-A-Wish. And so for Lady Code, one of the things that we focus on is anti-bullying. And I remember in Iconic Beauty, you shared a little bit about your story. So to anyone watching this, what advice would you have to someone that might be overcoming those types of obstacles from their peers or from society and things? What would you have to say about that?
You really have to build yourself up and you have to surround yourself with the right people. And what I think is so great about technology now is social media allows you to connect with like-minded people, and so if you don't have that core group of amazing people that you can go to school with or hang out with outside of work or whatever, you can connect with people through, social media. And what I love about Iconic Wine Beauties and Iconic Beauty is we're all over the country, and with Iconic Wine Beauties, we're expanding into Australia. Like,
Wow!
Yeah. Yeah, it's exciting. But so now you don't just have to stay connected with the people that you see on a daily basis. You can stay plugged in with people who are, inspiring and uplifting and empowering each other, like I love that. And so another thing is you really have to just build yourself up and decide who you are, because if you don't decide who you are and what you stand for, the rest of the world is going to tell you what you should be or what you have to be or what you have to believe. And then it's going to be up to you to decide that you are strong and you are powerful and you are amazing and you are worthy and you are deserving. Because if you don't decide that for yourself, the rest of the world is going to tell you you're not this, you're not that, you can't do this, you can't do that. And then you're eventually going to start to believe those things because you hear it so often from people who already believe or don't believe those things about themselves, that they're going to push their beliefs onto you. So when you surround yourself with people who want to see you win and who love seeing you, kill it and reach new goals and break through, these thresholds, like there's nothing that you can't do. So, the Law of Association talks about how you become the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. So it's so key to surround yourself with good people who are going where you want to go. And I think if you get a mentor who has been in a who is kind of either living the life that you want or, is just a good role model, then you can model the things that they're doing. And because if you do what they do and say what they say, you'll get what they get every single time. And so just follow the people who have the things that you want, and you really just can't go wrong.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I remember at Iconic Beauty, that was probably my biggest takeaway. Actually, the thing that you mentioned about you being surrounded by, or you are the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. And I think that's really interesting. Going off on that, how does that go, being the average of the 5 people, how does that, is there other things that maybe should be done in addition to that within yourself, you think, besides being surrounded by those 5 people?
Absolutely. Yeah. So a lot of personal development. So I'm not to go super dark, but I was not always in a really good place. I have experienced bullying on every level. I was 13 when I got my first death threat. And then when I became a public figure, things got really intense. People who didn't know me, who knew nothing about me, were just awful. Like I was annihilated on social media on a daily basis. And I just didn't understand it because I would never be that person to someone else. I didn't understand how someone else could be that to anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I learned about personal development and I, started listening to audiobooks, I started reading good books, I learned about positive affirmations. I have 83 of them in like scattered all over my bathroom mirror and my closet and everything. And so, really just building myself up and trying to, I really broke down the person that I wanted to be, like the person who is Bryiana. And then what, in a perfect world, what would Bryiana believe about herself, about the world, about other people? What would she do? How would she act? What would she, what would a day in the life of a perfect Bryiana look like? And then what would, Bryiana as a mom look like? What would she want to instill in her kids? What would Bryiana as a wife be like? What would be a perfect wife? And then every single day, instead of telling myself, oh, I can't do that because, I was inspired every single day to be like, okay, if this is what your ideal life looks like, what do you have to do in order to become that person? And so every single day I would, make a little change. I would create new habits. And really, we are creatures of habit. So if you don't like the way that something is going in your life currently, then it's because you have a bad habit of something. So figure out what that is. And instead of trying to get rid of that habit altogether, figure out what you could replace it with. Because as creatures of habit, if you have a bad habit, you can't just get rid of it. You have to replace it with something. So what's the opposite of that bad habit? And then create, a good habit.
Interesting. That's so interesting. I never thought of it as a habit, but it did remind me of, and I don't mean to keep bringing up my own personal.
No, I love it.
But I just really do want to keep, letting people know that like what you've done and how you've even impacted myself. I only hope other women would look into doing the same. I remember Iconic Beauty, it was, what was your biggest goal? Like, biggest dream, but don't worry about any limitations, like don't worry about what people think, don't worry, like regardless. And so for me, I mean, even admitting it, I would get a little nervous, but it was to be Miss Universe, and I remember I was like, oh, but I don't know, it's so competitive, it's so hard. But then I remember you mentioning, don't let what other people say and what other people think be what you think.
Mm-hmm.
That was a huge step and the huge spark that made me want to compete at Miss Florida USA last year. So I really do think that what you're saying about not letting other limitations or what other people tell you get in your way, it really is so moving. And I can't tell you how much I've appreciated how it's impacted me personally, and I'm sure plenty of women around the world.
Oh, that makes me so happy. Thank you. Like when someone tells me, when someone that I really care about tells me what their dream is, my first thought is, duh. Like, there's no way that's not going to happen, because I think so highly of you. And I have gotten to watch you for so many years compete in pageants. And you have been one of my favorites from day one. And I still remember your like perfect mermaid white gown. Like, it's a dream on you. And I just always thought to myself, like, I can't wait for her to win. I hope we get to win together, But
Mm-hmm.
it's so there's never a doubt that you can be Miss Universe. Zero doubt in the whole entire world. I have no doubt. But if there's a slight doubt in you that thinks, I don't know, maybe I can't, then that is switching your mind and the universe. You're like tricking the universe into believing or into thinking that you don't think that you can be. So the universe is like, okay, well, maybe she can't. But if there is zero doubt in you, like I competed in the perfect pageant system for 7 years. And I finally won on the 7th year. And that is the year that I walked in and was like, I am world's perfect miss. Like I felt it, like I believed it. There was zero doubt in my mind. And then when I finally won, and by then I had already started learning about law of attraction and personal development and all of that. So I spent that whole entire year working on, okay, how am I finally going to win this pageant? And then when I finally believed, like, okay, I'm just going to go out there and be myself. And then I did, but with the right mindset. And then it finally worked. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And so when you really believe that something is possible, like that is how miracles happen. Like logic doesn't produce miracles or magic. You have to just,
oh my
it
gosh,
doesn't matter how something is going to happen. You just have to know it's going to happen.
Yes. Wow. Logic doesn't create miracles. That needs to be on a poster. Even in your quotes, I swear. Great. And I mean, honestly too, yeah, when you put it that way in pageants, you know, being yourself, but also believing in yourself. Those are the two key elements, if put together, can really make anyone believe in their dreams, whether it's pageants or anything in life. I can only imagine how far. So thank you for sharing that. That's so, so great. And then I also wanted you to share, if possible, I remember I saw one of your Facebook Lives, and it was about how everyone has 24 hours a day, you know, and it really hit home for me, because it was like the one thing that, regardless of how you look, who you are, where, even if you're like, you know, person or dog, you know, we all share 24 hours a day. It doesn't matter any sort of background or any sort of difference. That's the one thing. And if you can share a little bit more about your experience regarding what you were saying about that, and having freedom for yourself, because I think that's really moving also.
Thank you. Yeah. You know, everyone does have 24 hours a day. There's no one in the world who gets gypped out of a couple hours in a day. You know, there's not anyone who only gets 20 or someone who gets 28 and you're only stuck with 24. Like, they're literally 24 hours a day. And so as someone who gets a solid like 8 to 9 hours of sleep every single night. I'm a mom. I have a 2-year-old and a 10-month-old. I'm a wife. Like, I run 2 businesses. Like, I have a lot going on all the time. And it's very rare that I feel like, well, it's very rare now, that I feel like I'm just constantly being run over, you know, like I finally feel like, okay, I have control in my life. I learned how to task manage, because another thing that people talk a lot about is time management, but you can't manage time. Time happens with or without you. Like, it's never going to stop. So you can't control time. You can't manage it at all, but you can manage the things that you do within that time. And so every month, I'm actually doing it tonight because it's the first. But I sit down and I take a couple of hours, because that's really what it takes. And I put in my calendar all of the important dates, all of the important things that I have coming up. And then I put in my priorities. So if our kids have doctor's appointments, we schedule that time in. We schedule time in for our family. We schedule in anywhere from like 4 to 6 date nights a week. And so, you know, we really make our marriage a priority, our kids and our family are a priority. So we schedule out that time, and then we fill in our blocks of time, our extra blocks of time with work. So we really schedule our priorities first, and then we schedule in work. So when I say like, hey, yeah, you know, if someone is like, oh, can you meet on this day, or can you do a call on this day? It's like, yeah, I have this block of time available because that's my time that I scheduled out to work. So I can do it before, or, you know, I can do it that time. And usually in between that, we have a doctor's appointment to go to, or, you know, we have a date night, or, you know, like we have different things blocked out. And so there's never going to be a time when our kids don't, you know, our kids are never going to grow up and think like, my mom worked too much and missed so much of me growing up. There's never going to be a time when my kids are like, all my mom did was like stay home and like, you know, whatever, because there's always going to be that healthy balance of work and, you know, family life. It's a very healthy balance. And so, and the only way that this is even possible is with multiple sources of income, you know, for both me and my husband. And so, if anyone who was like, well, I can't do that because I never know what my schedule is going to be like, I don't know it ahead of time. Well, you at least know a week ahead of time. So if you only create your schedule a week ahead, then in any extra gaps of time that you have within that schedule, set aside an extra hour or two a day to pick up some kind of side hustle. Like if you're good at, you know, crafting and you want to set up an Etsy shop or something, if you know, wanted to get into network marketing, there are so many different things that you can do to create multiple sources of income. And that is so key, because the only way that you can create time and financial freedom is to earn a residual income and to have multiple sources of income. So that gets kind of technical. But at the end of the day, like if you're just some new person, or if you're just some person who's new to self-help and personal development, and you're just like, okay, where do I start? Start by scheduling your priorities first. And you also are a priority. You can't forget to schedule in me time and, you know, self-care, whether that is, you know, going to the nail salon, like, you know, once or twice a month, or once the kids are in bed, take a bath, tell your husband, like, I'm going to be gone for an hour. Like, I'm going to, you know, light a candle. I'm going to have my oil diffuser going. I'm going to have a glass of wine, like whatever. And I think a lot of people don't realize that they waste so much time doing unnecessary things. Like, do you need to always be on social media? Do you need to watch TV? Like, if you think that you don't have enough time in the day, then you should probably turn off your cable and get rid of your Netflix account. Those are the two main things that people don't realize. Like, you really do have more time than you think you do.
Yeah. That's so funny that you mention it, because I've been trying to do that as well, with like managing my time and balancing it out after the whole 24 hours quote really hit me home. So I remember trying to balance, like, my self time is I watch 2 shows, but I'm like trying to exercise more just to, like, for my own personal development. But I'm like, I can actually exercise and watch TV at the same time, wasting time watching TV. Or, you know, with audiobooks, I can't get, like, I love it, because in moments where I'm just kind of like folding clothes or brushing my teeth, going to bed, having that play, it's like constantly doing something productive. So even TV, you can still exercise. Even if you're listening to an audiobook, you're still organizing your room, and you're still getting that me time, and you're still getting everything without feeling like you're in 2 places at once. So I absolutely love that. And I think everything you have said, like, I want to just put little quotes around my it is really, really great. You know, time is always going to come. You can't manage time. It's great. Fantastic. Like, thank you. So I think we'll wrap up this interview, but for those that want to get involved, whether it's with Iconic Beauty, Iconic Wine Beauty, whatever your next venture project may be, maybe just wanting to stay in touch with whatever you're doing, what's the next step for people watching this?
So Iconic Beauty is actually rolling out some very exciting things in the near future. So you can follow Iconic Beauty on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. And then Iconic Wine Beauties is actually launching probably the biggest and most impactful thing that I've ever done very, 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 very soon. So if you want to connect there, you can follow Iconic Wine Beauties, or email me at Bryiana@iconicwinebeauties.com to be on the list, because we're going to be launching it very, very soon. So if you want to be the first to hear about it, contact me.
Nice. Okay. Awesome. And I'll make sure I hyperlink all this information on the blog at Lady Code. So if you guys have any more questions regarding iconic beauty and iconic wine beauties and want to learn more and just learn more about Bryiana and also continue to just be inspired by what she does every day, you can see it over there. So thank you. Thank you so, so much, Bryiana. I really, really enjoyed this interview.
Thank you. I loved it too. And thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.